Thank you to the panelists. I see that everybody is speaking Hebrew, so I'll speak Hebrew as well a little bit, and I'm delighted to open the floor for Q's and A's. Brief questions, please, with a question mark at the end. Are there any questions? No questions? There is a question here. To the mic, otherwise we can't translate it. Thank you. My name is Uri Rechav. I would like to ask about Assad. What is the opinion of the team of panelists, whether at the end of the day we as Israelis don't find it preferable to leave Assad as is, and shouldn't we do something about it, if so? I've seen somebody else raising his or her hand. Just a minute. I would like to ask Professor Sasser how, or rather, what shape and form should the Israeli initiative take, the initiative for the preservation of the State of Israel as a national home for the Jewish people, and if we talk about an unilateral initiative. Thank you very much. Professor Sasser, would you like to start? Yes, into the mic, please. As for the question of Ron Ben Yishai, yes, a unilateral initiative, not necessarily and not as a first priority. Of course, it would be preferable, if at all, to negotiate with Abu Mazen and to reach an agreement, an arrangement with Abu Mazen on those issues that are possible, mainly the question of boundaries. If we could reach an agreement that would not finalize all the issues that are still between us, and this is a problem of principle between us and the Palestinians. The Palestinians were against and have been against, at least officially, to any idea of an interim arrangement. The Palestinians fear that for Israel such an interim arrangement is actually a final arrangement. The Israelis' fear is the opposite, that a final arrangement for the Palestinians is only a temporary one, an interim arrangement. There is a gap of trust or between the two. But if we can reach an arrangement or an agreement on the basis of negotiations, of course it's preferable. The problem lies in that we are today in a dynamic that I call a one-state dynamics. We are going down the slope into a reality of one state, and only because of the zero things that we are doing, apart from the settlements, and the settlements lead us to this undesirable direction. We need to do something that would renew the two-state dynamics. I'm not speaking about a solution, I'm talking about renewing this dynamics. And I would take a step, if there's no possibility to reach an agreement by a negotiation, I would make a unilateral step. And this means that gradually, of course, through negotiation with the settlers and not fighting them, to an arrangement according to which Israel is going to withdraw from a continuous territorial territory, is around 60% 50% of the West Bank, and that would create this dynamics of at least stopping the international debate and the Palestinian debate, which is increasing and says that the idea of two states is null and void. We have to renew this idea. It's in our interest. Those of you who know the history of the Israeli-Arab conflict should know this. The idea of partition was an idea that we accepted, and we fought for it. And the Palestinians were against it. And now things are the opposite. I argue that it's very dangerous to the very existence of the Jewish national home in the land of Israel. If you try to catch everything, you don't catch even one thing. And this needs an Israeli initiative. The region and the Palestinians and the Americans are not going to save us from our mistaken endeavors in the past. Only an Israeli initiative can do it, with an agreement with the Palestinians or without it. I would like to refer to the question about Assad, but before that I would like to say something about the Palestinian issue. I spent 20 years of my life since 1993 in negotiations with the Palestinians. I agree with Asher about his analysis and the conclusion drawn from it. I'll start with Assad. Let's be modest. I don't believe that Israel can really preserve Assad if it wants to do it. With all due respect to ourselves, I don't believe that we can really formulate the solution for Syria. Iran and the Hezbollah are investing whatever they've got in order to maintain Assad on his throne. They are not going to be successful, so even if we decide to join them, which is problematic unto itself, I don't believe that we would be able to retain him on his throne. And now about the Israeli interest. I think that there is a dilemma here in that Israel has to choose between the devil that it knows and the devil that it doesn't know. But undoubtedly, on the one hand, it is clear that the Israeli interest is for Assad not to remain in power, because Assad was the main axis in that radical axis led by Iran that connected Iran and the Hezbollah and created a strategic threat for Israel. And for me, the minute Assad is toppled, this axis is going to be severely hit and maybe would fall apart, and this is a strategic benefit for Israel. It is true that toppling Assad might bring about new hostile forces, and nobody knows it. How Syria is going to look like in the future. I think that there's going to be a de facto division between different forces rather than one central stable government, and this creates threats to Israel, and we've talked about that before, but I still think that from the strategic point of view, Israel would be better off with this severe blow to the radical axis. Apart from that, we have to look at the global order of battle and see who is for Assad and who is against him. We see Iran and the Hezbollah. They are doing whatever they can in order to retain him in office, and on the other side we see the West, Europe, the United States, who want to topple him, and of course they are acting very cautiously and very proportionately, and I think that they intend to be more and more involved, and Israel should decide in which camp it positions itself in this context. At the end of the day, I think that the Israeli policy should be to keep a low profile. With all due respect to ourselves, it's not us who are going to decide what's going to be there. We have to do only whatever is good for our security interest. I think that the Israeli policy up to now has been a cautious one, has been the right one. All in all, I agree with what Asher and Mike have just said. About Assad, I would like to say something else. You can't turn the clock back. there's nothing to do about it. It's not relevant anymore. The only thing for which Assad was relevant to us was the quiet on the Golan Heights, and we have forgotten all the bad things about him, and I really agree with this statement. As for the second point raised by Asher, we're going to deal with it in the session dedicated to the Palestinian issue. We have last year we already suggested the unilateral step, but now we're going to speak today. We're going to speak about those three-pronged approach. We would like to realize in small steps a new reality on site, but in a parallel we're also building the conditions for unilateral steps to be taken, and we're going to speak about that later today. When we deal with strategic and planning vis-a-vis such an environment where it is so difficult to know what's going to be the situation and what direction the events are going to take and which new realities we're going to see here, usually what we're trying to consolidate is a method according to which we create strategic benefits for us all the time, and the meaning is that they put at our disposal a number of options at every point in time. The Prince has talked about this tunnel with a light, so you know this tunnel is only one option, that at the end it can be a train going towards you, and the idea is to always create a number of options and to choose the more relevant option and the more available one and the more practical one, and this is the policy that we should adopt, and that is why we recommend against the fortifying policy, fortifying one in one's place, to go towards a unilateral initiative, because we have to improve the starting point, the strategic starting point for the next steps to be taken. Another point that I would like to make is that, you know, the Jewish people was preserved for many years because of the next rule: in bad days not to lose hope, and in good days to prepare oneself for the bad days. And the third rule is that even in difficult situations to look for opportunities. Thank you very much. Thank you, Udi.
Before we wrap things up, I would like to ask General Amos Yadlin, INSS Director, to also say a few words. Thank you.